Follow your lab handout here for the first lab in ornithology on bird topography. And we've blocked out terms that you're not responsible for knowing, so that makes it quite a bit easier. Most of these things are just common sense, so you have to take the time to just look over these birds. So here we have a little blue jay starting up at the head. If there are any little feathers sticking up in the air, that's called a crest. At the top of the head, no matter what's up there, is the crown, right? If you come down, right in front of the eye, between the eye and the bill, is an area called the lore. The forehead is just above the bill, duh. There's an upper and lower mandible. Together they make up the bill. Right below the lower mandible is the chin, and it doesn't go very far before you're into the throat. Then on down the breast, where it sort of bows outward. Get down to where, almost to where the legs emerge out of the body, you're at the belly. Okay? Then at the side where the legs are coming out of the body, sometimes called the flank. There's also, you see the side as well, just above the belly. So side, you'll see lots of chestnut-sided warbler, for example. Keep coming all the way down underneath. Right under the tail is called the undertail coverts, or the chrysum. Up above the tail is a spot called the upper tail coverts. Now the tail, all the feathers together are called the rectrices. In the wing, all the primaries and the secondaries, the outermost feathers, the primaries, and innermost flight feathers, the secondaries, together are called the remiges. So we have the rectrices on the tail, remiges on the wing. Go up the bird around, you get the back. Back of the neck is called the nape. And then right below the eye and toward the back are the auriculars, the auricular region or ear region. Supercilium is a line over the eye. All right, so that's pretty much what shows up when looking at this little blue jay diagram. Let's flip to another little sparrow diagram. Crown is on the top of the head. Supercilium, that line above the eye. The black line that goes back from the eye is called an eye line. It's not on this diagram. The lores between the eye and the bill. And then you see the bill. Then the chin isn't labeled, but you got the throat. You have the breast where it bends outward and then flattens again to the belly. Okay, flanks on the side, right where the legs are coming out, and higher up on the body is the side. Then undertail coverts. Upper tail coverts, and up onto the back and the nape. And then we have the ear region, the auriculars, and the malar region kind of swipes down from the bill, backward directing. That's the malar. Here's another diagram. Everything we've hit here: crown on top, supercilium, that's the stripe or line over the eye. Lores between the eye and the bill. You have the maxilla, mandible making up the bill. Then there's a throat, doesn't show the chin where those little feathers are sticking out. That would be the chin region. Okay, then we have the malar area, auricular area, and the nape. Now the black and white at the bottom, the bird there shows the supercilium, the white stripe over the eye, and then there's a black eye line right through the eye. Okay, there's a broken eye ring. If that white went all the way around the eye, it would be called an eye ring. Then they have a crown, right down the middle of the head is the crown. It would be the median crown stripe right down the middle. If the crown is broken into different colors, you have median and lateral stripes. So you can look at birds and begin to appreciate the names that are given to these birds. It's reflecting important parts of the body. For this, white-throated sparrow, hey, it's got a white throat. Also has a cool yellow lore. Has a median crown stripe, a white median stripe, and two lateral dark stripes, right? It has a black line, a black eye line going straight back from the eye. And here we see the slide. They pointed out some of these things. The lower cheek. Oh yeah, it's a gray cheek or auricular area. Same thing. Here's a bird that has yellow supercilium, black auriculars or cheek, yellow chin and throat, black crown. These are called wing bars if you see these white stripes on the wing, and if you see a big blotch of white, it's called a wing patch. So here's a bird in a genus Dendroica that has a broken eye ring. See, there's white above and below, but it's not connected. And then you have white wing bars. Okay. Yellow chin, yellow throat. How about this? It's called a white crowned sparrow. Oh my gosh, it's got a white crown. And the black eye line, white eye stripe, black lateral crown stripe. So it's not too hard picking up some of the basic terms of the head and body. If you look at the bill, there's some weird stuff. There's a fleshy flap over the nostrils in pigeons and starlings and domestic chickens. It partially covers the nares, okay? So that's called an operculum, the fleshy covering over the nostrils. If it's a cornified, kind of a leathery band of skin at the base of the bill surrounding the nasal openings, like in parrots and raptors, it's called a seer. Here's a seer in a bald eagle. Now, birds may have areas of featherless areas of this, where skin is richly supplied with blood vessels, usually red in color, maybe air sacs and grouse too, but these are called wattles. The red color of these areas usually results from blood beneath the skin. It's not a pigment that produces the color. So Muscovy duck here. How about turkey? Yeah, those are wattles. That's what the red, fleshy, featherless areas are called. The bills themselves, okay, is bony. The bony material is beneath a covering called the rhamphotheca. Rhamphotheca is a covering of modified integument, modified skin on the outside part of the beak. It's hard and heavily cornified in most birds, right? So this is a pretty neat view of a rhamphotheca being peeled away. The local thickenings are colorful in many birds like alcids, the puffins, okay, seabirds. After the breeding season, they shed these protuberances. They can be really bright during the breeding season, and then they may shed those and look duller in the non-breeding season. Ptarmigan and grouse, some grouse also shed their rhamphotheca intact. Okay, let's talk about the scales and claws. The scales of the feet many times have been modified, modified integument known as the podotheca. So we have the rhamphotheca, the modified integument surrounding the bony material on the bill, and modified integument called the podotheca surrounding bony material on the feet and hands sometimes. So it could be things like webbing, so like pelican here, lobing, so little lobes on each toe of a grebe or a rail or a coot or a phalarope. You can have spurs coming off the leg. See, those aren't the toes, that's a leg spur. Modified podotheca. You can have scales along the sides of the toes, like in grouse in the winter. They act like little snowshoes. There's rough grouse in the winter on the right, and in the summer, they lose those little doodads. Okay. Then we have modified nails, can be really long, like the long, look at that toe, the hind toe of the horned lark. Or it could be short and blunt, like the claws of a grouse. The nails themselves can be modified into little comb-like structures called pectinate claws. Here is a heron's pectinate claw. Then there can be modifications up in the hand, the wrist area. There's scales you see coming off this jacana or hasana. Hoatzins, great kiskities, red-winged blackbirds, newly hatched ducks often will have these kinds of modifications. Here's some wing spurs on a northern screamer out of South America. Here's some claws on the young Hoatzin that they have right on their hand, their manus. They climb around mangroves. Another modification of the topography of the birds is brood patch. So during the breeding season, birds may lose feathers on their belly, for the most part, to increase the rate of heat transfer from the body to eggs when they're incubating, right? So it's mostly females that do this, okay? So this is on the dermis of the belly of most birds during the nestling period. Okay, you can often then tell the bird's sex this way by blowing on the bird and seeing if it has a brood patch or not. However, sometimes males and females have brood patches like Clark's nutcracker, starlings, and swallows. But in general, birds that have brood patches incubate eggs, and those are the females. There are also situations where males might lack brood patches, but they will incubate, like house sparrow. And then there's other cases like Impidinax flycatchers in that genus Impidinax, where the males have brood patches, but they don't incubate. So, but by and large, it's a female-related thing. There's a modification on the back of the bird just above the tail called the uropygial gland. This is a bilobed, sebaceous, or lipid-producing gland. It's the only skin gland that birds have. So this is an example from a hawk and a warbler down in the lower right. And here is a pigeon squeezing oils from the uropygial gland to use while it preens the feathers, so make the feathers much more supple with these oils. Finally, I'll give you a couple of characters of the bill, and these are self-evident for the most part. Long bills are longer than the head. Short bills are much shorter than the head. Hooked bills, the upper mandible's long and bends over the lower. Crossed bills, the upper crosses with the lower. Compressed bills are compressed laterally. Depressed bills are depressed from top to bottom, much wider than high, like a duck. Stout bills are generally cone-shaped kinds of things. Terete bills are round, like the hummingbird. Straight bills have a very, very straight commissure there. The gape of the bird is a very straight line. Recurved bills curve upward. That bird there in that picture is in the family Recurvibrostridae. Decurved bills curve downward like that little creeper. A bent bill goes jump, jump. It bends. It has a little crook in the middle like flamingos. Swollen bills, if you look from the top, the sides of the mandibles are convex or bow outward. Acute bills are pointy little sharp tweezer-like things like warblers have. Chisel-like bills are beveled at the end like woodpeckers. A toothed bill is one where there's a little crook in the upper or hook, kind of tooth-like thing in the upper mandible. Serrated bills have tooth-like structures like mergansers. Gibbous bill has a pronounced hump. Spatulate looks like a spoon. Notched bills have a little nick in the top of the upper mandible, right out usually toward the tip of the bill. Conical, there's a cone shape again. Then we have angulated commissure. The commissure is a line between the upper and lower mandible. This one's obviously angulated. There's a gular sac. There's a modification where there's a pouch beneath the lower mandible. Okay, here's that bent bill of a flamingo. It's also a lamellate bill, so it has structures like a whale to sieve fine material from water. Take a look at tails. They can be rounded, like this crow. See how round it is? Square, like this sharp-shinned hawk. Slightly emarginate, which is slightly forked or more deeply forked, like this tern. Graduated means like little stepping stones going from the body outward. And you get this one here is graduated and pointed or acute. And lastly, wings. If you look at them in cross-section, could be flattened or very convex or concave and have curvature to them from the front to back. Okay, there's a concave wing. Then they could be kind of short and rounded or relatively long and pointed. Well, this is basically the idea. Just look at examples of the bill and tail and the wing legs in the lab and test your mastery of these and other terms.